We have definitely seen a complete shift away from on-campus interviewing in the traditional sense where the schools create a structured interviewing program and the firms come to campus to actually see the students on their roster in the beginning and then invite chosen students back to their offices.
This is Unlawful. Welcome to Unlawful. As always, I'm Brandon Rankin. I'm here with Tiffany Tucker and Chandria Jackson. Good morning, y'all.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Great to have you. It's rare that I get to have two guests, so I'm super excited about it. But rather than me try to stumble through who you are, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So Tiffany, who are you? What do you do?
I am the Assistant Dean for Career Development at the University of Houston Law Center. I oversee career development for our law students and recent graduates. I oversee a department where our constituents include employers and students. So we have employer relations that basically recruits the recruiters. We have student relations that essentially teaches the students everything they need to know about what career development means in a legal landscape. And we also pay close attention to our externship program to ensure our students get academic credit for a lot of the experiences they have with government and public interest agencies. And we also make it a point to analyze the data to ensure that we're always giving up to the minute information to our students to arm them with what they need to reach the goals that they want, which are to secure the jobs that they want.
And Chandria?
Good morning. I'm Chandria Jackson, and I'm one of the members of Tiffany's teams. In my role, I oversee employer relations and development. And so, like she said, I recruit the recruiters to come recruit our students, as well as build relationships with both legal and non-traditional employers to help make opportunities for our students.
The reason I'm so excited to have you guys on, this show's called Unlawful. We usually talk about individuals on awful or unlawful moments to try to figure out what we're savoring in our days, what matters to people. The reason I have y'all on, and the reason I have y'all on together especially, is because I personally think we're in a very difficult moment for what you guys do for a number of different reasons. The most kind of fatalistic I'll start off with. I've seen a number of articles and talked to a number of people over the last few months who have said that, for example, OCI is dead, right? It's being overrun by early offers or law firms, timing of offers, or whatever that means, right? But I wanted to know, as a jumping off point, what you guys think about that perspective, or have you even heard that, or am I just the only one seeing that on my algorithm?
Unfortunately, you're spot on. We have definitely seen a complete shift away from on-campus interviewing in the traditional sense where the schools create a structured interviewing program and the firms come to campus to actually see the students on their roster in the beginning and then invite chosen students back to their offices later for further connection. What we're seeing now is almost all of the big law firms now take applications directly through their online application portals. They require students to apply there. And what we're hearing from them when we do our follow-up and try to amass our data to see the career outcomes for our students, almost across the board, firms are telling us that students, in order to secure one of the summer spots for summer class at a particular firm, students apply directly online, and they almost always had a champion on the inside of the firm. So they had to have someone on the inside saying, yes, I know this student. Yes, I met this student. I interacted with them. I have a positive kind of connotation about their candidacy and recommending them to the team. Without that, like almost all of the slots were filled with people who came in with those two characteristics. So the schools have had to start teaching our students that the way you submit an application is different. We don't train on OCI the way we used to. We make one little recording and talk about it a little bit in a training passport, whereas it used to be a big workshop before because OCI was so huge. Now we have workshops on the direct application. We have workshops and programs on networking so that you can secure a champion on the inside at a firm so that they can recommend you for a position. So we're seeing where the market has completely changed, and OCI is now populated primarily by mid-law instead of big law.
That has a bunch of ramifications. I've spoken to a lot of people, a lot of law students, especially the first year of law school is an overwhelming process.
It is.
But now it seems like with this kind of, I guess, onslaught of hiring or job or career focused issues rather than learning issues, these first year students especially are getting hit with this from day one. And just to give you a little background of where I come from, I had no entree into the legal field, maybe watching LA Law when I was little. No lawyers in my family, no people in the business. I worked at the library at V&E in college to try to see what a law firm really looked like, but nothing really organized or professional or actual knowledgeable. It's just like my take on the legal field. I was feeling that. But luckily, when I started, and this is something that will sound archaic to almost everybody watching this, we weren't even allowed to send law firms letters until
That's exactly right.
January 1st of our first year. I went to UT, and the big UT OCI recommendation, or OCS, Officer Career Services recommendation, was send a ton of letters on January 1st. And every law student was at the student center addressing envelopes on January 1st. And at the time, I had no idea what impact that had or why it mattered, or where it came from, or what allowed me to send why I couldn't talk to law firms before then. But in retrospect, I'm like, oh man, like that was great.
That's right. It was protective. It was protective for the candidates. It helped them to reserve that time meant to become acclimated to law school and figure that thing out. It was to protect them during that time. When I graduated just a few years after you in 2009, December 1st was the drop date. That was the date that you were supposed to have all of your packages distributed to all of the firms, and everyone knew that. And I, even at that time, was not a person who was even focused on big law, being a first generation as well, and ended up getting into big law because a professor thought that I needed a helping hand, and she called a friend who headed up a department. That kind of thing where you have a protective stance for students. You make sure that they can do things like get their grades and understand where they fit in the whole scheme of law school before, and you make it to where they get to go and look for the firms. That creates a type of environment where they're going to do their homework, they're going to research a little bit more, they're going to have time to digest the information, and they're going to be able to make better decisions because more information is being provided. Right now, we're taking away the information and leaving on all the pressure.
And that's exactly one of the things I wanted to talk about, because the point about information is extremely critical in both directions, right? I definitely got hired before, as a first year law student, I definitely got hired for my summer clerkship before they had grades, right? Don't pretend that hasn't been.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And some schools do that. That's the case. That's recruiting at some schools, and T14 schools typically fall within that strata.
For sure. So that hasn't been an issue. People are making a big deal about that. And it's a little bit different now because people are hiring first year and second years without any grades.
Exactly.
Nothing, right? But the other thing that was really important to me was my first year I worked at one firm. It was called Lock, Liddell & Sapp. It's now Drop and Pepper Lock, right? Prior to sending out my January 1st letter or December 1st letter or whenever it was, never heard of them, right? The reason I found out that would be a good firm to try out is because of that interim time period.
Exactly.
August and January.
And to absorb what's happening in the market. If there is time left, I like you, knew nothing about it. My firm came looking for me. At my school, there were certain firms that you applied to if you were within a certain grade point average because you were almost guaranteed at least the interview, right? I applied to those, but there were some outside of that short list that didn't get the application. My firm called me and said, hey, we heard that you were in this strata. We want you to come and interview for us. What does that sound like? Even the process of them looking for who they want based on the factors that are important to them are so different when the candidates aren't just a number. Do you know that candidates were getting called based on their undergraduate grades? Not an IP, like very often it can be related to, but just based on, did you get a 4.000? And so that we can say that we got the best and the brightest based on this one sheet of paper.